Good evening, Marvel Rivalers. My name is KarQ. Welcome to another week of r/Marvel Rivals top upvoted posts, memes, discussions, all that fun stuff. Sit back and relax and enjoy the show. First one of the week from 4 days ago is, what heroes do you want to play but they just don't click for you? I'll start. And this person posts a picture of Loki. And as a Loki player, I kind of understand that. When the game came out, I was like, I'm never gonna touch this hero because I played him for like 2 games and I'm like, I don't like him. And then I stuck with Mantis all of season 0. And then I played a lot of Luna and a lot of Adam Warlock. But then I gave him another shot here and there and I'm like, wait a minute, something clicks. And I feel like a lot of heroes may not click for some until you give it a fair, honest shot. For me personally, it's not Loki anymore, but it's probably heroes like Black Panther, Magic. A lot of the melee heroes feel weird for me, mostly because I find it hard to gauge when to engage and disengage at that range, since I'm so used to playing ranged heroes. I played a lot of support heroes in Overwatch, a lot of support heroes here, and none of them are melee based at all. So Loki is the king of like staying at a safe distance and always running away versus, coming up front and, taking the brunt of the battle, like Magic, like Black Panther, who get a lot of like overshield or whatever you call it in this game when they use their abilities, and they can snowball a lot. In any case, that's me. What do you guys think? That one's a nice and easy post. Moving on to the next one. All right, this is a pretty interesting hot take here. Rocket Raccoon, Adam Warlock, and Jeff the Landshark are good for the game. Streamers just can't cope without defensive ultimates. In Season 1, streamers kept complaining about the triple support meta and begging for nerfs and calling support players boosted by the meta, bracket, as if they themselves weren't being boosted by it too, close bracket. So many bad plays were saved by ultimate spam. The only thing that mattered was their 3 supports that ulted at the correct time and allowed them to get the picks. Since the Season 1.5 mid-season nerfs, I've watched the big streamers go on losing streaks and become confused why they're losing so many games. They're dropping out of eternity, failing even when stacked, and pinning the fault on teammates. They're blaming their Rockets, their Adams, and the Jeffs, and these are the only healers who can't give them the I win button, calling the characters bad, useless, etc. But what they don't realize is defensive ults have been carrying them this entire time, and that if they want to win, they have to adapt. I think this is healthy. If they want to stay at the top, they'll have to master the shifting metas, and I think the sooner they admit it to themselves that they aren't single-handedly losing because they have a healer without a defensive ult, or because Rocket is stealing ult charge, or Jeff is throwing by existing, or Adam is completely useless, the sooner they'll fix their gameplay and start climbing again. Well, I'll have you know that I'm not a massive streamer. I'm a relatively mid-sized streamer, and I have not complained about defensive ultimates because I play the supports, and I don't actually enjoy playing the big defensive ultimate ones that much. Like, I enjoy Loki and Adam, and Mantis has a semi-defensive ultimate, but certainly not as big as the Cloak and Dagger, Invisible Woman, and Luna Snow ultimates. That being said, you're not wrong. I actually think adaptation is like one of the biggest skills you can have. Adaptation is an imperative skill when you play a solo queue game. Adapting to your not only the enemies, but adapting to how your teammates play is something that that translates in every single game, and that's a skill you need to have to climb in rank, not so much like your individual performance. I mean, your individual performance is largely tied to your adaptation skills, but you can minimize the amount you have to adapt to your teammates when you build some natural synergy with your friend group, your duos, your trios, and your 4 stacks, etc., etc. But that being said, this is just a big streamer cop-out. A lot of them like to air out their frustrations. Sometimes it is a little over-exaggerated, especially for content, because these things get clipped and they go viral on the socials. Like, that's their job. If you want my advice, don't trust large streamers. In fact, don't trust me. What you should be trusting is A, your intuition, and B, just like read and listen to some of these discussions, like the people complaining about Rocket, Adam, and Jeffs. Think about why they're complaining about that, and then you have to use your own logic and deduction and reasoning as to why they say these things, and then compare it to your experience and compare it to many opinions. Like when I make tier lists for Overwatch or whatever, even sometimes in Rivals, like you don't ever want to take one person's opinion. I think when I did this in Overwatch a lot, there was a user on Reddit who used to take the opinions of like 10 to 15 streamers and then kind of weigh their tier lists based on like how they categorize, like with a numerical value. So if I made like, Reinhardt S tier, which probably never happened, and then like another streamer made him, C tier, like that kind of gets averaged out. And then he did like an average tier list across all of them, which gives you a better read on what the general opinion of a streamer is. But remember, streamers are also just people. Even though we have like streamers and content creators have an audience, not every, Eternity and One Above All and Celestial player is a streamer. There's plenty of people with good opinions and good takes. Even you, if you little Timmy who is in gold, has your own experiences, and like when someone says this hero is bad at that rank, doesn't mean it's bad in your rank. For example, Rocket's a very big example where a lot of high elo players hate it because they don't really synergize too well with his offensive damage amplifier kind of ultimate and try to sync up with that versus someone who can play Rocket in gold who has, you know, higher survivability and very good reliable heals, for example, right? The point I'm trying to make is that you're not wrong. I actually sort of agree with this. These heroes are fine for the game, especially if they're good on the hero. Like I think a good Jeff on the right map is fantastic. I think a good Adam when played with Mantis and Star-Lord is fantastic. And I think Rocket, when you combo it, is pretty solid as well. They're good for the game, and like, you know, you don't always need the defensive alt crutch. Like I've played these games before. I've been in Overwatch forever. I know I mentioned the game a lot, but like big reference is like people said you need Lucio or you need Zenyatta's defensive alt to deal with the enemy Graviton Surge combo, which is half true and half not. But like over time, like people evolved and were like, you're right, we don't need it. We can play the Ana Mercy. We can play a different combination of supports that don't necessarily need a strong defensive option. You can take the team fight wipe or the team fight loss and then kind of like reset and then go again. You can also play around some of these offensive ultimates that enemies have without relying on the crutch of a defensive ult. For example, when a Storm ults, like two supports who pocket each other can out heal 150 DPS. You can use a Magneto bubble. You can use that Hulk friendly bubble. You can use your shield. You can Groot wall LOS break some of these offensive ults that the enemies are putting onto you. When the enemy Psylocke ults, you can clump together. You can play Loki, use the defensive rune, make a bunch of clones and split the damage. There's more answers than just defensive ults. So you know what? I agree with this. It's good for the game. But that being said, defensive ults, like they nerfed it slightly. They turned the knob on how frequent they come up, but it's like not that much. It still comes up pretty damn frequently. I know this is a bit of an exaggeration post too. Your streamers are not losing every single game. Like the defensive ults are still coming up pretty often. The whole pacing of Marvel Rivals so far, even a season and a half in, is still very high in terms of ult frequency. Maybe because I'm a bit jaded from Overwatch, I do prefer like a slower paced. Not every ultimate has to be like the big thing. I kind of like it where you have to strategically use the ult because they don't come up as frequently as it currently does, because right now it's just non-stop ultimate spam, and I feel like there's no neutral game, no footsies game. That's a little fighting game reference. Anyways, I'm yapping a little bit, but I do think these heroes are fine for the game. And I do think more strategists and supports that come out need to be heroes like this that aren't just like a big defensive wall ultimate, which is what the complaint was for Invisible Woman, where it's like, oh, her ultimate is just kind of like another Luna and kind of like another Cloak. Press the button, heal everybody forever, nothing dies. I don't like that. I think it's fine to have a few here and there, but like not every new support needs that. So good utility for the future ones. That one took a little while. Let's move on to the next one. A lot of people seem to be under the impression that the only counter to dive is to play Namor. When Namor is banned, a lot of people don't know what to default to and complain on Reddit that dive characters are broken. Since when the hell do people say Spider-Man is broken? A lot of people complain about having the Spider-Man on your team. And maybe I'm reading the wrong Reddit threads. Spider-Man Venom is pretty solid though, I will say. I'll tell you from experience as a dive main that the most annoying to characters to deal with as dive are the following. Obviously Namor, S+, high burst damage, medium range auto aim poke, get out of jail free card, and turret with a slowing effect. Well, this turret with slowing effects obviously the team up only with Luna, but I think the underrated thing with Namor's turrets or his octopus is that it's like a sensor. It lets you know when like someone's lurking in the back line as well, which is a little bit of the underrated portion. And the area you put it up is sometimes hard to reach, and it ends up being so annoying for the dive hero. So I agree, Namor probably one of the best. Bucky, this Redditor rated it as S tier. I actually put Bucky at S+, by the way. Stun hook, uppercut that has priority over enemy abilities, slowing ability, high survivability. Yeah, Bucky as low-key one of like the best duelists in the game, by the way. They buffed his tankiness on every ability where he gains more shield. Like this guy is cracked. There's so many Bucky mains that you see because like he does everything. He's versatile, anti-dive, offensive playmaker with Roadhog hooks. Loki, another S tier anti-dive, immortality lamps, you can swap, invisibility, decent area damage. Maybe as a Loki main, I feel like I kind of get farmed by dive. Like it's actually, you can get chased when you TP out in a lot of cases, and like when you get jumped and you get your lamp is basically the green rune. This is an Overwatch term, lamp for Baptiste, for the non-Overwatch players. You can tell, I'm pretty sure this Redditor is an Overwatch player if they use this terminology for it, because honestly it doesn't look like a lamp, it's just the terminology passed over. I would put Loki at A tier. He's pretty slippery for sure, but like I find that dive is like actually like the strongest comp to play into me by far. But anyways, moving on. Cloak and Dagger is S tier is what this Redditor rates as an option to dive, because of invincibility, the healing bubble, area healing vulnerability plus the blind cape, auto aim damage, and healing. I would actually say Cloak and Dagger is underrated in terms of surviving. The problem with Cloak and Dagger players, listen up, Cloak and Dagger players. If you get dove, don't swap immediately to cloak form and phase and then try to sit and DPS the diver, especially if it's multi-dive. Single dive, maybe, but usually dive will catch you before you catch them because you're busy sitting there like throwing heals out, right? So the Spider-Man or the Black Panther will jump you. When they jump you, you stay as Dagger, as the girl. And you sit there and throw the bubble down on you if you have it and continually auto attack as the girl when like Black Panther or Spider-Man is uppercutting or a magic is hitting you, because every time you auto attack, you splash your auto attack off them and a healing aura pops out and self heals you. Your survivability goes up tenfold if you stay on this form. The reason why you get killed so easily is because you panic and you swap and you phase and you just go vertical into the air immediately. And then like sometimes you can get away, but a lot of times they just follow you and they just kill you afterwards. So sit in your bubble as long as you can and swap, you know, when it looks like maybe they're doing too much burst damage, then you have to get out, sure, but like survivability goes higher if you stay as the girl and they're in melee range, because divers are melee, they have to get up into your face. Splash heal is OP. Look for them to shoot the enemy to splash, or if you're with a teammate and you're getting double dive, just sit there and pocket them. Your survivability is way more important. If you swap the cloak and you phase, guarantee your teammate's panicking and he's pressing reload or he's shooting back. And remember, when you phase into that invisible state and your teammates that are being phased either reload or shoot, they are no longer invisible anymore. They are revealed, which is like, you know, maybe something you didn't know. I think if you follow a lot of Rivals, you should know this by now, but I threw it out there in case you didn't know. Next anti-dive option is Penny Parker, A+, area denial, 3S stun. Area denial and 3-second stun. Penny, I would say, is actually an S tier anti-diver if your teammates actually sit in your damn nest. So for the non-Penny players, if you're getting dove and you have a Penny on your team, literally stand in her webs, because she probably threw some hidden mines in there, and her little spider nest has those little drones that can only travel in the damn webs. So if you're getting dove, sit in the webs. And if you feel like she put her nest in a spot where the web kind of like puts it into the main fray where you get hit by other stuff, you can yell at your Penny and be like, hey, I don't want to play here. Can you just like shoot the little nest on the ground like a little further back or something, or extend it a little bit in a safer spot for me? And hopefully they listen, and a good Penny should hopefully listen to you. You have Hela, A tier, stun plus displacement, high damage, long range poke, and get out of jail free card. I agree with this. You put Rocket as counter to dive. I wouldn't say Rocket is a counter to dive. I feel like the lower we get down this list, it's like less about killing and countering the dive and more about surviving the dive. And I guess that's what I would grade everybody at B tier. So this is the stuff that can actually kill and deal with dive. Well, I guess like Cloak and Dagger, what I mentioned earlier, is mostly survivability. But when they leave, like the Spider-Man that's leaving, if you do stay in the cloak form later and then you terror cape them and then you DPS them, you can actually kill them. So maybe we'll keep her there. But anyways, Rocket, I would put in B tier because he can heal himself, he can dash, and he can survive. Star-Lord in A. Iframes, good damage, medium range poke, high mobility. I wouldn't pick Star-Lord specifically to deal with dive. I actually disagree with this one. Star-Lord should be pressuring the enemy backline, not peeling back for you unless there's nothing else to do. Invisible Woman, you have displacement, CC, leap with invisibility, a slow bubble. Invisible Woman's like B, anti-dive. Mantis is B+, large CC hitbox, good damage. I would put Mantis, actually I would keep Mantis at B+. I think the sleep dart or the sleep spore is like super good against that. Psylocke at B+, dashes to get away, medium range poke, high damage, invisibility. Psylocke is not played to like deal with the divers. You should be assassinating their backline. That's your role. But that being said, yes, you're not going to be a target for dive, just like Star-Lord, because you are in their backline. So I don't like these two in this list so far. Scarlet Witch, no aim, 2 get out of jail free cards. It's a little bit of damage pressure, but the TTK is not high. It's reliable and you can survive the dive, sure. I'll put it like C tier as like an option. Like you have so many better options. Like this is like such a low priority. I wouldn't even pick Scarlet Witch if they have dive. Unless you were dying, like you have 15 deaths in two minutes and you don't know what to play and you can't play any other hero, then yeah, pick Scarlet Witch because you can hopefully survive and still output something to help your team. The Thing at C tier, immune to displacement, CC, negates movement abilities in his Earthbound. Generally speaking, the tank isn't the one being dove. So like, I don't really see why this is on the list either. The only like tanks that are actually like useful for your backline getting rolled by dive is like Magneto bubble, sometimes a Groot wall, and sometimes the Hulk coming back there and like giving your team a bubble to like survive a certain thing. But yeah, interesting list, but like not a bad list. I think the biggest like takeaway here is like, you guys need to play more Bucky. And I'm sure people who play Bucky know that he's really good against dive. Next piece of discussion is I thought chrono vision would be a lot more important than it ended up being. Like, I get what it's for, but I've never had to use it to know what's destructible, and I've never seen anyone actually use it when new maps come out. I mean, I use it originally to like learn the maps, but there's only 9 maps in the game, and you kind of have an idea of what's breakable and what's not after a certain point. You press B on the keyboard, and I think it's up on the D-pad on controller. Don't quote me on that. If you go gray, and you get a visual on what you can break. Some of the stuff is useless, like these bushes in the practice range that you can break, but some of them do, you know, pop open holes, and it's pretty good on that like Tokyo map. Kind of important to know on the Yggdrasil like Loki map where he repairs it and stuff to pop open. But I have another series on this channel about the hot takes. I do think the maps are like the weakest portion of the game, and I'm not a fan of all like the dynamic map mechanics. I think the game is fine with a bit more static stuff. You can have some dynamic elements, but like the destructible stuff just causes more like frame issues, and like feels to me doesn't add too much to the gameplay. Not as much as like they probably perceive, but I agree with this. I thought it would be more important than it ended up being. I haven't actually pressed the button in a long time as well. So yeah. What do you guys think? Why does everyone say they're in Grandmaster? I don't know if it's about me, but literally about a quarter of the comments on Marvel Rivals content is people starting off their comment, I'm GM currently, etc. And are these people just lying, or is the GM rank distribution whacked out? I think right now, if you hit GM, it's like 90%, top 90% relative to the player base, which is a good accomplishment on its own, but it's probably close to like being like diamond in a lot of other games. Depends on the game that actually like publicly shows their distribution. But the title GM is not as meaningful in this game because like being a grandmaster is like being a mortal, and being a celestial or an eternal person or the one above all. Like Marvel has their whole like their god status above a mere mortal GM, but being a GM in like chess is like one of the craziest accomplishments like anybody can ever be. GM is one of the highest ranks in all the other games, but like the Grandmaster equivalent in Rivals is not, comparatively speaking, as crazy as other games, but it sounds really nice to say, to be like, I'm a Grandmaster. And people like to flex, and people who are in this rank are most likely to comment and say that than someone who is actually platinum and has an opinion on the game. They don't go like, a lot of people don't go like, I'm plat and this is what I think, and like, you know, they feel like they have some sort of authority or some sort of merit to their argument. But anybody who's now hit this Grandmaster title will be like, oh, excuse me, I'm Grandmaster, so this is what I think. I mean, like, listen, everybody, we should all try to value other people's opinions and perspectives, but I will say the ego gets a little bit wacky sometimes with Grandmaster in this game, for sure. I won't lie. I see it quite a bit. They're just like, my opinion is better than yours simply because I'm Grandmaster. That's why I think everyone likes to say it. They're more likely to kind of flex that because people like to flex. This one's a visual one. This is a video on how Captain America helps you win games. Hint, it doesn't always show up on the scoreboard. So for the audio listeners, it's a 60-second clip. Maybe I'll try to narrate what's going on. Let me see what this is. Okay, this Cap just jumped through a strange portal, went back to spawn, picked up a health pack, and is running around with the shield up. And he's hit assemble his ultimate, which gives him shield. He's jumping around, slamming, and he's pulling the attention of 6 people and stalling the point. And enemy team is struggling to kill him because he's jumping around like a maniac. The cloak and dagger on his team just threw down the bubble. He's standing in it, using all his shield, running around, installing it in overtime. His team came back and they have killed him. Okay, I think I got an idea of what the rest of this clip is. Yes, Captain America is one of those heroes that has value that doesn't necessarily show up on the scoreboard. The scoreboard can only display so much information, you know, damage done, healing done, kills, assists, deaths, damage blocked. It doesn't have a stat that like shows time or duration of time where enemies were looking at you, which I think in some games they call us like threat or like aggro time threat, like how much attention was put on you. And that's another facet of a game, a hero shooter, which is part of why you win. Like if you as a Vanguard or a tank can grab more attention onto you, you're doing your job because you're creating space. That means they're not looking at anybody else except you. They're not shooting their abilities at anybody else. They're not, you know, checking sightlines. Like you are drawing space and aggro. And yes, it doesn't show up on the scoreboard. And this is how Cap can win games. This is why your Cap can have 3,000 damage, like 4,000 damage blocked, be the lowest statistics wise on the stat board, but have like a good win rate. I think if you look at the average win rate for Captain America, it's above 50%. Like he outperforms Black Widows, Jeffs on average, and a lot of other Vanguards on average, because he's like a natural annoying rat. If you play League of Legends, he reminds me of Singed. He's just like there to proxy farm and just be annoying and run around and go and just like be a nuisance. And anybody here who's played League, you will understand what I mean. Be like, you know what? KarQ, that makes sense. Captain America is Singed. He's just an annoying ass piece of shit. Doesn't die and runs around, and if you don't deal with him, he can beat your ass. Like, I remember I played a game as a support, and I'm like, guys, like, I'm playing a support, right? And I'm like, dude, this Captain America's beating my ass. They're like, what do you mean, KarQ? Like, just ignore him. Like, walk up with us. I'm like, bro, you have to pressure him a little bit. Like, if I ignore him, he will beat my ass. If this Singe with 6 items and I fully just ignore Singe, I'm like, bro, I can't. He's fast. He's sprinting at me. Singe is pressing his little fucking his ultimate, and he's running up my ass. Like, no, you do have to kind of deal with him. You have to shoot him a little bit and make him leave. Okay, but in any case, that's Captain America in a nutshell. All right, last Reddit thread is, what are you even supposed to do when they block both exits with a portal? So for the audio listeners, this is the spawn room. They're saying how when a Doctor Strange puts his little portal and puts him on both sides, and you can't exit because when you enter one portal, you end up on the other side. Some maps actually, the only thing you can do is some maps actually have a third exit or another spawn door opening. The other is you have to swap to a hero that has a small hitbox, like a rocket. Sometimes a Loki can put a clone past it and TP through. But honestly, you're kind of stuck for 20 seconds. There's literally nothing you can do. And one of my hot takes is that I don't think Strange should be allowed to do that. Some people are like, well, the trade-off is he loses his cooldown. But like, it's like effectively a team 20-second stun. Like, that is very, very kind of like a broken mechanic, in my opinion, that I don't think should exist. Like spawn door traps and abusable stuff like this just doesn't feel like it should be it wasn't like part of the game that they probably envisioned. And I do think this will eventually get nerfed if enough people talk about it. It doesn't get talked about so much because not every Strange can do it every game, because they may not have the portal available when it matters. But like, in times where the Strange team is attacking and has his portal available and the enemy team has to come out of spawn, if you can pull it off, it is unbelievably OP. You're literally removing people from the game for 20 seconds and they can't do anything. I don't think it's supposed to be in here, but that's all you can do. Play small hitbox heroes. Sometimes, depending on the hero, you can kind of just like squeeze your way through if you just like move in and out in an odd angle here and there, but generally speaking, you just take the L and move on. Like, that's all you can do, which really sucks. But in any case, that's the Reddit threads of this week. Thank you for listening. See you guys in the next episode.